Australia fires. How many animals have died in Australia fires? Australia fires have raged since September after a combination of drought and hot weather ignited a deadly bushfire in New South Wales. Almost 200 fires are still burning and spreading, causing damage to the environment and killing 26 people and a number of animals. How many animals have died in Australia fires? The Australia bushfires have transformed the southeast of the country into a charred landscape and has forced the evacuation of hundreds of thousands of people. The fires are expected to get worse as the summer months continue, likely adding to the 1,000 homes destroyed and 9 million acres of land they have ravaged. How many animals have died in Australia fires? The fires threaten to erase entire species in Australia, which already has the highest rate of extinction in the world. The fauna of Australia is varied with some 83% of mammals, 89% of reptiles, 90% of fish and insects and 93% of amphibians being endemic to the country. That is largely owed to the fact Australia, which counts more than 300 native species, is isolated and has enjoyed tectonic stability. Professor Chris Dickman, a biodiversity expert at the University of Sydney, estimates that 480 million animals have been affected by the Australian bushfires. That figure has since been widely reported as the number of animals to have died in the fires. To arrive at that number, Professor Dickman used figures from a report he co-wrote in 2007 on mammal population density in New South Wales. It estimated that there was an average of 17.5 mammals, 20.7 birds and 129.5 reptiles per hectare, which is about the size of a rugby pitch. Those numbers were then multiplied by amount of land affected by the bushfires, which at the time was 3 million hectares. Using that formula, Professor Dickman estimates 480 million animals have been affected. However, this only relates to NSW. The true mortality rate is, in fact, likely to be substantially higher than those estimated. The figure includes mammals, birds and reptiles and does not include insects, bats or frogs. Many of the affected animals are likely to have been killed directly by the fires, with others succumbing later due to the depletion of food and shelter resources and from being hunted by feral cats and red foxes. The true loss of animal life is likely to be much higher than 480 million. Professor Dickman told BBC Breakfast, "We've estimated that in the 3 million hectares of New South Wales alone that were burned up until about 10 days ago, probably as many as 480 million mammals, birds and reptiles would have been affected by the fires. Certainly, large animals, like kangaroos or emus, many birds, of course, will be able to move away from the fire as it approaches. I guess it's the less mobile species and the smaller ones that depend on the forest itself that are really in the firing line." There are a couple of things to bear in mind with Professor Dickman's figures. Firstly, the fires have spread to Victoria and Professor Dickman's numbers are only concerned with NSW. Because the fires haven't continued to spread, the 3 million hectares figure is out of date and therefore it's likely that more animals have been affected. There are no density estimates for individual reptile species, and because many could survive the fires by living in the soil, it's difficult to be sure about how many have or will perish in the bushfires.